to the Cross'em Wrestling Entertainment Podcast.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Cross'em Wrestling Entertainment Podcast. My name is Tyler, joined today by Mr. Dylan. Hello, Dylan. How are we doing?
Good. Glad to be back. Missed this.
I know.
Little absence. We're back.
We had a little bit of a hiccup last week,
break.
But we are good to go. Dylan's camera is working this week, so we get to see his face again.
Moneymaker is back.
So we are back up in action, and soon, Dylan, to be rejoined by the magician himself, to joining us, hopefully coming back to join us next week, is Noah Cross, the magician, currently in Washington, D.C. So he is a busy bee. But Dylan, it has been great having you as just me and you. But, you're more than welcome to stay with us if you are willing and ready and gable. See what I did there?
Slapper right there.
But yes, Dylan, you're always welcome on the Cross'em Wrestling Entertainment Podcast, and the people have seemed to enjoy having you with us, and arguing with you in the comments is always my favorite thing. So as much controversy as possible, all news is good news. We need that press,
That's true.
But yes, everyone, we are back. Both of us with functioning cameras, both of us with functioning StreamYard here on my Twitch channel, which is tbard_. We're up to almost, let me check. I think we're at almost 350 followers now on Twitch. Let's see, 336 followers right now on Twitch. And we are still growing. And then also live on the Bard and Cross Entertainment channel. You can watch us live there, or just find us anywhere that you find your favorite podcast for download. We also want to remind you that we are not a market substitute for AEW's Dynamite or AEW's Rampage, which we're going to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. Who knows what the format will be going forward, but AEW's on Friday night, so SmackDown, you're next. You better look out. Just before we get into it, Dylan, I guess I can bring this up. I find it comical that this whole time WWE and Vince McMahon has said that AEW Dynamite is not competition, yet now are crying about Triple H losing the Wednesday Night Wars. Like, wait a minute, what is it? Are they competition or are they not competition? You gotta make up your mind here. Yeah. So a quick word on that. What do you think about this whole AEW finally being declared the winners of the Wednesday Night Wars?
I think it's huge. I hope this means Vince is going to step it up in terms of product over there, because AEW's been killing it for the last 2 years. I mean, killing it. Yeah,
it's not even, they're not even in the same league when it comes to wrestling content. WWE, don't get me wrong, they put out good content, but it is not the same content that AEW is putting out for wrestling fans.
Right.
It's more, and I've said it my whole life, and it's not meant as an insult to wrestling, but WWE is like a soap opera for men. It's more acting than it is wrestling, which, whatever, I'm an actor. I do a lot of acting, but the wrestling is going to improve, hopefully, at the hands of Triple H and some other people over there. We'll see. But I guess want to give WWE, I want to give AEW the congratulations that they deserve, because they have won the Wednesday Night Wars, and now we're on to the Friday Night Wars. So let's see what they can do on Friday nights. But Dylan, we are back at it with some AEW action. Let's see who we had lined up first here. Oh, yes. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus the Seidel brothers and Dante Martin from Top Flight. What a way to start the show out. You had three incredible top rope high flyers versus potentially the biggest faction in all of wrestling right now. I would say probably the biggest faction.
Yeah,
I don't think anything beats them.
I'd agree with that. I really do.
They three incredible athletes going up against one of the best factions, though. So it was definitely something to look forward to. And of course, commentary was joined by the greatest manager in wrestling right now. Don freaking Callis was on commentary for this match. Matt Jackson would swivel his hips after body slamming Matt Seidel, I cannot for the life of me think of who he was imitating there. He did. Was it Dolph Ziggler? It almost felt like he was doing the Dolph Ziggler, like hands around the head. Like he was really They tease us so much that there could be a WWE wrestler signing with AEW at any moment. And that was the most Dolph Ziggler hip swivel I have ever seen in my life. So, who knows? Maybe his contract's expiring soon.
And his brother.
Right? I don't know. His brother's already here. Oh my God. Fun stuff. But Mike would go in to use two deep arm drags to take down Matt Jackson, and Dante tagged in, but would be poked in the eyes by Matt to tag in Nick Jackson. Dante floated on air with a tremendous dropkick to Matt Jackson, and Kenny Omega ran in with a blindside shot to Dante. The Seidels rocket launched Dante onto the Elite on the outside of the ring, which, again, that was a wild move, too. They really threw him hard. Kenny Omega, however, would tag in and slap Mike Seidel. Omega palmed Mike's head and bounced him off the mat. The Elite utilized quick tags and brought in Nick Jackson, who rammed Mike's head into Kenny's boot. Omega tagged back in and put the pressure on Mike Seidel with an elbow and a near fall. Matt Jackson tagged in and stomped a mud hole into Mike Seidel, and Kenny came back in with an elbow to the back of Mike's head. The Elite would then go on to triple team Mike Seidel, and Matt Seidel eventually got away to tag in with a matrix of moves on the Elite. After a fisherman buster suplex on Matt Jackson, Matt Seidel got a near fall on Matt Jackson, and he applied a grounded Cobra Clutch, which Cobra Clutch was one of my finishing maneuvers when I did backyard wrestling. Dylan, I don't know if you knew that, but that was my finishing maneuver. And Matt Seidel assisted his brother, but Kenny would hit a Snapdragon suplex on both Mike and Matt Seidel. Dante Martin got the hot tag and delivered a big right hand to Matt Jackson. He followed up with a Tope Suicida on Kenny Omega. Dante used a Swan Dive Hurricane Rana on Kenny Omega on the outside, and Bedlam broke out in the ring with all the competitors trading offense, but Kenny Omega, of course, came out on top. Omega stopped Dante in his tracks by planting him across his knee, and Kenny connected with a V-trigger. Kenny attempted the one-winged angel, but Dante countered. Dante reversed a Tiger Driver 98, but he couldn't close the deal. Omega dropped him with a one-winged angel, and the Elite used the BTE trigger. Kenny Omega eventually scored the pin on Dante after a triple team assault. So an absolute flurry of a match. This was a high-speed start to the night, but it did not end with that pinfall, as Tony Schiavone would enter the ring after the match to interview the Elite. Don Callis grabbed the microphone from Schiavone and began to run down the Pittsburgh fans, which not a good call. Pittsburgh is becoming one of the hottest wrestling crowds in the world, especially if it's with Britt Baker around in Britsburg, because as we'll talk about later, they were on fire for Britt Baker.
Yeah, they were.
But yet again, another interruption. Christian Cage's music would hit, and out came the challenger to Kenny's title. They said, "Look, it's Christian Cage, the Stamford Stooge. You're a little bit outnumbered this time," said Don Callis. But of course, Jurassic Express music would hit, and Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus would come out. The number one ranked challenger for the Young Bucks belts came out to even up the odds with Christian Cage. You're getting your AEW title shot at All Out. I think you've got one of the best finishers I've ever seen. In fact, Kenny can't wait to kick out of it on September 5th at All Out, because remember, they are facing each other for the title at All Out, the AEW championship, that is.
Yep.
Go back to the bench and wait your turn. Did you really think that Kenny Omega was going to wrestle you here tonight in Pittsburgh, said Don Callis. And of course, Christian had a rebuttal, and he called him a carny jagoff. It's like, wow, that's pretty rude. He said he talked to Tony Khan himself this week, and he said, "You're right, it is locked in, Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage for the most prestigious prize in the sport, the AEW World Championship at All Out. But in case he's counting wrong, Kenny, you've got more than one championship. And guess what? I will be challenging you for the Impact Championship this Friday night on Rampage." Absolutely bonkers. And they would also go on later to announce that the Jurassic Express would be challenging for the AEW tag team titles next week on Dynamite. Dylan, I mean, what a start to the show.
Major announcements right there.
Absolutely. Take it away. What do you think of all of this?
Match was great. That's how you open a show. Anytime Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are on that screen, you're drawing people in.
Absolutely.
The crowd's going to love it. and you put 3 high flyers against them. They had a good match, a nice opening match, which they've not failed at. I honestly can't recount a time where they've started to show slow. They bring the heat. And what announcements to follow that. Incredible match set for Rampage, which we'll talk about. Look at that picture, first of all. What an awesome graphic.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful graphic. I hope Rampage sticks with this the lights and the lightning. I like it.
It's definitely it's a good look for sure.
And what a tag match set for next week. Really good tag team title match coming up next week. And again, it could go either way. Both of these matches. Either way.
I don't think this is the downfall of the Elite, but I think they have a great shot at winning those tag titles next week. But I'll give you more of a reason why when we start talking about Rampage later on. Right. But it is definitely looking to be something exciting next week. If they can keep this level of hype for at least a sustained period of time, at least till hopefully the greatest in the world shows up, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
The hype will be off the charts if that happens. Like for years to come, there's going to be no...
that'll be one of the biggest moments in wrestling history.
Ever.
Beyond excited to see what they can do with that. A match I was kind of looking forward to because I don't know too much about Daniel Garcia. I'm not sure if you were familiar with him.
I'm in the same boat as you.
But really don't know I was like, all right. I mean, if Darby Allin's going to give him the rub, let's see what he's worthy of. So we would move on next to Darby Allin with a Sting, of course, versus Red Death, Daniel Garcia with 2.0, which is Jeff Park and Matt Lee. Daniel Garcia would stand toe-to-toe with Darby Allin last week, but he wrestled a lot this week on the independent scene, including, apparently, a 60-minute draw with Wheeler Yuta, noted Excalibur. So he had a 60-minute match earlier this week in an independent ring, which is bonkers. If you've ever seen a 60-minute match, those matches are usually nuts. So they locked up in the ring with Garcia forcing Darby into the corner turnbuckle. Garcia put pressure on Darby's left arm and then worked over his wrist. Garcia transitioned into a backslide, but Darby would escape. Darby shoved at Daniel Garcia and then applied a Fujiwara armbar. Garcia grabbed the rope immediately to force the ref to break the hold. 2.0 would distract the ref, which allowed Daniel Garcia to gouge at Darby Allin. Garcia whipped Darby into the turnbuckles. Garcia would continue to manipulate and dismantle Darby's left arm, where Darby tried to rally back and climbed up to the top turnbuckle, eyeing 2.0, but Garcia pushed Darby from behind. Garcia applied a hammer lock to Darby and then stomped away on Darby's head. Darby's boot touched the bottom of the rope, and he managed to get the ref to break the hold. I mean, up to this point, Garcia has been dismantling Darby Allin, which is not something we see very often in a Darby match. Garcia would go on to slap Darby, and Darby had had enough at that point. He chopped away at Garcia, and Darby went for a coffin drop, but Garcia countered it. Darby fought back with a stunner, and then he did connect for that coffin drop, pinning Garcia. An immediate turn of events. 2.0 tried to get involved, but of course, Sting moved in and made quick work of them. Darby Allin and Sting made the 2.0 pay for their loud mouths. Darby Allin and Sting are together... this was a line that we had written because Jim Ross put a great comparison online. And I don't say nice things about Jim Ross very nice, but this was hilarious. He said, Darby Allin and Sting go together like sauce and ribs.
Jim Ross, bro, he's never going to change.
I was like, oh, fantastic. So another decent match here. We're both big Darby fans. Your mother loves Darby Allin.
Yes, she does.
So you can't live in that household without being a Darby Allin fan. I'm a big fan of everyone in this match now. I did not know Garcia, and I knew of 2.0, but I wasn't that well-versed on their action. Personally, I thought it was a pretty decent match. It really showed that Garcia is going to be someone to be reckoned with, or not to be reckoned with, because he is someone who can really hold it up with the best of them. He held this match for the big part of it, and it just took a few big moves by Darby to win it. But if he could avoid that in the near future, maybe he gets a win over Darby Allin. But Dylan, what did you think?
You hit all the points that I was thinking here. Garcia really showed himself on the main stage, and I got news from a friend of mine. My buddy Dan texted me saying Daniel Garcia is the Limitless Wrestling World Champion. So he is a pretty big name to have in AEW.
Very cool.
So that's pretty good. And 2.0, I wish to get a different name. I'm not really sure that tag would work.
Need something new.
From that other company that we mentioned earlier, it's interesting their role. I like seeing them on AEW though.
Yeah, who are these WW? I mean, what?
What?
That word is banned.
Who said
that? So yeah, again, they really this match just kept the momentum. Mm-hmm. It kept this episode's momentum rolling, which would go in to see some people that we love to see in action again. We had the best friends of Wheeler Yuta, Orange Cassidy, and Chuck Taylor versus Matt Hardy and Private Party. We just talked about Wheeler earlier, so Wheeler was the other half of that 60-minute match. So definitely exhausted coming into this night. But again, these were... Look at the competitors in this match. These are 6 guys who could be solo competitors, never mind having them in tag teams. So very exciting to see it. But Orange Cassidy would start the match off by grabbing Matt Hardy's hands and cradling him for a near fall. Hardy retaliated with force and a side effect slam on Cassidy very early, which I was shocked to see him get that move off early. Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy tried to double team Orange Cassidy, but of course Orange Cassidy would tag in Wheeler, who jumped off of Orange Cassidy's back. Private Party surprised Yuta with their silly string maneuver, which again is still something. Even though they're heels, I love watching them. Yeah. Wheeler had a window of opportunity open after a double drop kick on Private Party, but the bunny would push at Chris Statlander, and then Nila Rose ran out and rammed Statlander into the edge of the ring. Chuck Taylor would take out TH2 with a top rope con hilo. So chaos reigning supreme in this moment of the match. But eventually it would come back in as Taylor powerbombed Cassidy onto Mark and then used a spinning Liger bomb on Mark Quinn. Orange would smash Matt Hardy with a DDT and then a tope suicida, and Wheeler would hit a splash off of a top rope on Mark Quinn for a near fall. Yuta was fighting against the odds against Private Party, where they nailed Wheeler with the gin and juice. And by the way, this gin and juice, this is, if you were to ever have a wrestling show, and like not a planned wrestling show, this was the most brutal looking gin and juice because it didn't look like he was exactly ready for it, because it looked like he hit really hard. But luckily for them, Orange Cassidy would break up the pin. Matt Hardy nearly took off Wheeler Yuta's head with a twist of fate, and then would go on for the pin victory. Matt Hardy has a look of a man who's counting all of his money, would say Jim Ross. Again, man, the wheels kept on turning in this match. Yeah. I mean, what do you have to say about this one?
I gotta say, this match started and I didn't know which way it was gonna go, which is a great feeling to have in wrestling, where it's not just, oh, that's the winners,
right?
And to be fair, I was surprised when Matt Hardy got the win.
And the pin. Exactly. Like usually he just lets someone else take the pin.
He say, I want some credit today. So he took it, and again, the pace all night kept going. It was great.
Yeah, this is one of the shows. They've had a few shows where there's been like dead moments.
Yeah.
And not to call anyone out specifically, but the women's division match is usually the one that hurts them the most, unless it's someone like Britt Baker or Nila Rose, Chris Statlander. The Bunny has been doing incredible things on TV lately, and on YouTube. She's really been someone to watch. So this has been a constant rolling wheel tonight. And, we can only hope that it would continue up to this point. But we did have a quick backstage interview with Dasha, interviewing Andrade El Idolo and Chavo Guerrero, saying, "You are very ungrateful, Pac, but be careful what you wish for," said Andrade El Idolo. "Pac, you're going to find out who the boss is at All Out," added Chavo Guerrero, setting up a match for All Out. Oh, I mean,
come on.
Wow. Come on. Pac versus Andrade.
Give me that.
Wow. Take my money.
Exactly.
Can you believe that not a single match until the Christian match was booked? So this is now the second match booked for All Out. Before those matches were booked, the tickets went on sale for All Out and sold out in less than 20 minutes. without a single match being announced. It sold out in 20 minutes. That's bonkers. And now already with just those 2 matches, I would pay $40 for the worst seat in that stadium just to see those 2 matches.
Right.
And they still have another 2.5 hours to fill. Crazy that there's those 2 incredible matches. And while we're on the topic of Andrade El Idolo, did you see what happened last night, Mr. Dillon?
Of course I did.
At AAA Wrestling?
Of course I did.
Wow. All I got to say, I mean, there's one word. Do you want to say it or should I say it?
We could do it at the same time.
3, 2, 1. Woo!
Oh my God, I couldn't believe that.
The Nature Boy was on AAA Wrestling last night and went out to assist Andrade, taking out Conan and Kenny freaking Omega. Andrade is next. If he is not the one, if Christian's not the one to beat Kenny Omega, Andrade Cien Almas, well, that's not his name, El Idolo, is next. Because
I agree.
What a moment.
He's so good. He's so good.
That was amazing. And it looked like he was just going to come out as maybe like I'm here. But he got in the ring delivering chops and a right hook. Yep. And then he put Conan in the figure 4 as Andrade did the same thing to Kenny Omega.
It was great. And I'm all for that.
I am too. And, the haters are going to hate on this comparing. The worst comparison I saw was, oh, my God, this is just like Goldberg. I'm sorry? Did you just compare Goldberg to Ric Flair? That's brutal. If you're going to try and say 2 old guys in the ring, sure. But Ric Flair at 72 still looks better than what Goldberg is going to be able to do in WWE. Right. He's not all elite yet. But if there was ever a sign.
I would love to see him a part of what Andrade's got going on. Him, Chavo.
Oh, man.
Great. I'd like it.
Just call him the family.
Yeah.
The family.
Make him some cartel type fucking group. He's running his cartel.
Rick's got 8 rings on his fingers.
He's all blinged out.
He's showing up in limos. I'm all for it. If that's going to be a faction, ooh, baby. Maybe faction wrestling is the thing that needed to be a thing. Because AEW, I can't count them. There's so many. We hated it at first. If you remember, we were like, oh God, there's too many. I can't keep track. But if it's just going to be like faction wars.
It was something I did want in wrestling. If you asked me a few years ago, I'm like, that's what's missing. There's not enough.
Yeah.
You can have guys supporting you and you can have guys, that's just a part of wrestling.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And in here where factions matter, you want people to have your backs. Faction runs AEW.
And records matter in AEW. And to have someone to have your back is huge. So it makes sense where somewhere in WWE, it's not as necessary because wins literally don't matter, as you can see by some of who of the champions are right now. Anyways, we would move on, as we're doing right now, to the galaxy's greatest alien. Bang! We had Nila Rose with Vicki Guerrero versus Chris Statlander with Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy making his second appearance. Both of these ladies making their second appearances on the night. A busy night in AEW. Nila Rose didn't waste any time and attacked Chris at the sound of the bell. Nyla sent Chris flying with a pounce, and Nyla took down Chris with a released German suplex, which beautiful suplex, looked very good. Yeah. Statlander fought back with a pendulum moonsault off of the apron and onto Nyla Rose. Again, these two were bringing it right out the start of the match. Nyla would choke slam Chris onto the ring apron, which, Dylan, if you didn't know, the ring apron, it's the hardest part of the ring.
Hardest part of the ring.
Oh, you did know that.
I do study my facts.
Nyla went up top for her diving knee strike, but Statlander did a handstand to avoid it. Nyla answered with a modified spear, which, man, as janky as that moment looked, it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
They're going up top for this move, and then Statlander's like, ha ha, can't get, and then spear. It's like, oh, God, brutal. Chris Statlander countered Nyla's offense, however, with a power bomb, and then pinned her after hitting the area 451. Tony Schiavone would go on to say that Chris Statlander could and should be champion here in a very short order, which coming from Tony, oh my God, you talking against Britt Baker right now? You better be careful.
I can't wait to hear her say something about that.
The Young Bucks, however, were next seen backstage. Nick Jackson said that their match next week against Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus is going to be an easy layup. And as he attempted to hit the layup with a basketball, Jurassic Express stuffed him, adding a layup of their own to add salt into their wound. Again, these ladies kept the ball rolling again. It was a high energy match, much shorter, which for a women's division that is hurting, maybe not a bad thing. Just fit what you're good at into that time period, and it'll be good. How'd you like this one, Dylan?
I really like this one. These are two of the, in my opinion, the three biggest stars in the women's division.
Yeah.
That's how they build people. Obviously, Britt's at the top. She's been running the division, even while not as champ. Now she is champ, and she's running the division.
Really?
And then I'd say Nila Rose is your second biggest name, followed by Chris Statlander. And to have those two one-on-one, huge.
That's huge absolutely huge. And it kept Chris Statlander where she belonged as the number one contender. Not Red Velvet. Sorry, Red Velvet. You're going to have to do a little more to impress me. You've been okay.
She hasn't even been on TV. It's just out of nowhere.
It was a very random matchup for Rampage. But I get they do have a little bit of history, so it made sense. Yeah. But I would have much preferred someone else in that role. But, hey, we're not booking the matches.
Right, exactly. We're just enjoying them.
That's it. Speaking of Britt Baker, however, Tony Schiavone was in the ring next to interview the AEW Women's World Champion, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. And Baker received an absolute hero's welcome in Britsburg. She said she really can't comment on Red Velvet's rise because she can't relate. I've always been at the top of AEW, and I've always been the face of the division, and I've always been the baddest bitch on the block. But her fearlessness that I can relate to, I wasn't afraid to step up when this city needed a champion. I bleed black and gold just as much as anyone in here, so Pittsburgh, I present to you hope. Wow.
Yeah.
What that was awesome. Like, she didn't even have to say anything else. But she said that and held up her title and went on to say, Red Velvet, you might have had a glimmer of hope if you were wrestling me in any other city, but not here in Britsburg. And the main event this Friday on Rampage. Well, Red Velvet didn't wait long, coming down to the ring, charging Britt Baker, and the AEW officials, of course, separated the two women as to make us have to wait for Rampage to see these two go up against each other. Dylan, you and Noah are going to be proud to hear it. I'm sold.
Yes! Yes! Oh, I feel like I should call him right now. Give him the good news.
He's probably still in the airport. I don't know if he'll be able to answer his phone call.
Oh, that's amazing.
But that promo alone was like, wow. I don't know if she wrote that ahead of time or if that was just off the cuff. But either way, that promo was so good. Where I was like, I hate you, but...
Come on.
That was so good.
I was sensing it in the way you were delivering that. I'm like, is he like not a hater anymore? Like, did I miss something in these 2 weeks? But yeah, man, I'm telling you, she's the best thing going in women's wrestling.
Yeah, she looked incredible this week, and we'll talk again about her match on Friday. But wow, she really brought it this time around. And speaking of bringing it, we have some content that we would like to talk about from the CMG. Woo! CMG company right now, guys. So I have some ads as well as a clip from one of my recent Twitch streams. So just stick around and we'll see you on the other side.
Rocky Hill Accountants offers a unique, low-pressure approach to professional and personal services, which is why they have an excellent client retention rate and are extremely proud of the high-quality services that their firm provides. The executive team at Rocky Hill Accountants has over 35 years of combined experience in income tax preparation, bookkeeping, accounting, and IT crypto tax. They specialize in individual income tax preparation, as well as trusts, estates, and gift tax returns. The tax deadline for individuals is May 17th. If you're one of the 50 million Americans who still hasn't filed, visit RockyHillAccountants.com.
The Giants are running New York like the Times as Danny is dropping all sorts of dimes. Saquon's thighs are ruining defenses' lives and Leonard Williams making opposing QBs feel him. Receivers think it's scary to line up across James Bradbury, and the Giants have a bright future led by Coach Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Tune in to Drawing About the G-Men every Wednesday at 6, live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Attention all basketball fans. CMG Sports presents the Posting Up Podcast, where Lucas Boldick, Sean Scanlon, and King Zay discuss the latest news and topics throughout the NBA. So, if you have a love for basketball, make sure you check out the Posting Up Podcast, live every Tuesday and Saturday on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Also available for download on every podcast platform.
The college football season is coming back, and we got you covered on every game. We're breaking it down on each snap all season long. Catch us every week starting on August 4th. Joe Aguirre, Sean Scanlon, Jace Garcia, and yours truly, Obi Muniz, giving you the highlights, predictions, and current rankings. Visit our website at hhwshow.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's All Four Downs, part of the CMG Sports Podcast Network.
Go. Oh! Get up! Get up! Let's go! Holy shit!
So as always here at Clovercrest, we're having a lot of fun with our podcasts and other activities. So if you are interested in those, give them a look. And then you can also find my Twitch account, tbard_, on Twitch, of course, twitch.tv/tbard_, or you can follow us on the Bard and Cross YouTube page, or you can find us on Facebook. We don't go live on Facebook right now, unfortunately, because AEW doesn't like us supporting them. So we're just going to not go live there until they stop. That's the really mean way to put it. But every time we go live on Facebook, we get this little like, hey, stop it. So stop doing that. So you know what? I will. How about that? Maybe I will just stop doing
Joke's
that.
on you.
Yeah, take that. So yeah, no, I'm very excited to continue with Twitch and Facebook and YouTube. We're doing very well over there, and of course, the Clovercrest group is putting on some amazing content right now as well. But let's move on to what we are doing on the show right now, Dylan. So far, it has been quite the show.
Oh yeah,
and we still had plenty to go with these guys taking the ring next. It was the Impact tag titles that were on the line, as you see the Good Brothers going up against Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. Scott D'Amore joined the commentary for this historic match, who, of course, is from Impact Wrestling. So we had to have some sort of representative of Impact live for this match. The Dark Order would show off their tag team prowess on Carl Anderson, looking for an early upset, but Brandon Cutler grabbed Evil Uno's legs and pulled him off of the apron. Cabana scared Cutler out onto the ramp, and the elite hunter Frankie Kazarian hauled Cutler away into the back. At that moment, I was like, "Oh,
something's going on."
Excalibur mentioned that there was some dissension amongst the ranks of the Dark Order last week with regards to respecting Hangman Adam Page's wishes. Only Colt Cabana was out there backing up Evil Uno and Stu Grayson tonight. Interesting as to what that could allude to.
I'll talk about that in a minute.
Of course, it's coming. We have a few ideas, potentially. Grayson would step off Anderson's back and DDT'd Gallows. Grayson very nearly had Gallows up on his shoulders, but Gallows escaped. Carl Anderson tagged in, but Grayson launched him with a suplex. Evil Uno hoisted up Carl Anderson on his shoulders, but Anderson, of course, slipped out, being the slippery man that he is. The Good Brothers were about to use the Magic Killer on Grayson when Evil Uno had it scouted and countered it. The Dark Order were about to perform their fatality, but the ref was distracted by Gallows. Anderson fired up the gun stun, and then they finished off Grayson with the Magic Killer for the pin. Dylan, wow, this was pretty well done. Again, they really just kept the ball rolling. Some guys that we both really enjoy in the Dark Order and, of course, the Elite. How'd you feel about this one?
It was good. It was good. And I like the theme we're going to talk about in a sec, but the Good Brothers, man, I'm huge on them. And I was hoping this wasn't going to be a quick title reign for them. I want them to hold those for a while, especially if the Elite's going to have the titles. I want them to feel included. They're good guys too.
Yeah, of course.
But let's talk about what we're alluding to.
That's weird. I don't know why they would split the group up like this. There's no reason. There's no free agents roaming around in wrestling right now, are there?
Literally no free agents I can think of. Anybody who's just recently released who's like a dark figure.
I don't know. Like there's this guy. What's his name? Way Bryant. Way.
I don't. Maybe is that
Listen, if Bray Wyatt signs with AEW, or as we should call him, Wyndham, because we don't know what his wrestling is going to be, the Cult of Wyndham. If there is a single faction in WWE that looks like a goddamn cult, it's the Dark Order. So to have Wyndham maybe take charge of half of the Dark Order, being the Evil Uno side.
True.
Or merge them? What are you thinking?
Or he comes and he brings them together. My hope, I really like their funny side. So, for Silver and Reynolds to kind of, go back to a darker faction, I don't see it as much. So the split kind of seems needed.
I think the split's happening.
I could see the split going, they go back to a dark side. You know what I mean?
That's what it should be if Wyndham takes over.
And that's what I'm thinking. He carries on the tradition that Brody Lee had. Where before, they were a darker faction. You didn't know what to expect from them. Until
they were scary.
They were a scary group. They had all the minions and all that. I'm all for that. You split it up, and this is how you make that first feud really interesting. You have Hangman come back, and you team with the guys who aren't sticking with the Dark Order. Instant feud.
Yeah, sure. We don't know when Hangman's coming back because he's going to be off TV for a while because he's expecting a baby. Right. So let me plant some seeds really quick. So if Wyndham takes over for Colt Cabana, Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, that's 4. That's plenty.
Of course.
If that is the faction that does come out of this, fantastic. That leaves 5 other members who are unattended to, who don't have a leader, who are looking to maybe become the greatest faction in the world, who are looking for a cult of personality.
That's a little. That's a stretch. I was liking where we were going before.
Who is CM Punk's biggest hated rival in all of the independent scene?
I'll let you answer.
Colt Cabana, Dylan.
That's true. I don't see him stepping in the ring with Colt. I also.
You think he's that petty that he wouldn't step in the ring with Colt Cabana?
CM Punk's a very petty man.
You don't think he'd step in the ring with Colt Cabana if it meant money?
I think you'd have to be very careful booking that match.
I mean, I don't know. I think if we could get, of course.
I think both of them might,
because he's a man child.
I think both of them might throw some real punches at each other, and
for AEW, that makes good TV. And then it doesn't have to be anything past that. They could have that big match, and then CM Punk goes on to his own way. Maybe they just look for CM Punk for one match. They have the good versus the bad, and they're outnumbered, so they need one more person, and then
I think that's a little too much speculating.
Listen,
that's a little too much.
That's what we love to do here.
I know we love to. I don't see that one happening.
Come on. All right, fine. I'll give it to you. Yeah, it's probably not going to happen that way. But, I mean, if CM Punk could be the leader of a group, that would be the only place I'd see him going. Kind of like he did with
Nexus?
The Nexus, right. A similar kind of vibe. But again, they'd probably get hate for that anyways.
Right.
Coming up next, though, we had Tony Schiavone, who would enter the ring with QT Marshall in the factory. That was a bad decision in itself. So QT Marshall and Tony got his words, or said that Tony got his words twisted and that Tony should be apologizing to him. And Tony was like, no. And Tony Schiavone's son, however, was sitting ringside. QT Marshall told Nick Camarado to grab Schiavone's son, Christopher, who apparently is an up-and-coming wrestler. And QT Marshall told Schiavone to apologize. Tony screamed an apology, but QT Marshall still hit the cutter on Schiavone's son. But then, of course, no, that's not his song anymore. The Big Show, or Paul White, would come out and defend Tony and his son. And Aaron Salo, I'm so sorry. You got pushed right into the Giants' clutches, and of course would hit him with a chokeslam, which is, thank God, that's the move they're going to be going with for him instead of that stupid weapon of mass destruction. That if they're going to do a chokeslam, I'm all about Paul White stepping back in the ring a little bit. But they went on to say, Excalibur, that is, that the incredible bond that Schiavone and Paul White have formed on Elevation is why we're seeing Paul White come out and just stare a hole through QT Marshall for the entire rest of that segment. So, again, nice to see Paul White back in the ring. Unexpected. I didn't think he was going to come out. I thought maybe someone who was a current wrestler might be the one to step in. Like, not Cody because he's retired.
He's a little dead.
But someone from the factory would have been someone I would have expected there. But cool to see Paul White stepping into a more aggressive role, which means Mark Henry, you might be next.
Good.
We'll see what they can do. But it's time, Dylan.
Yes.
It's time for the main event. The five Labors of Jericho Chapter 4, the Demo God versus Wardlow. Jericho would come out immediately taking the fight to Wardlow, but of course, Wardlow, like a horse swatting a fly, was having none of it. He lifted up Jericho and backed him into the turnbuckles. Jericho fought back with a code breaker, which nice to see the code breaker, but Wardlow, of course, kicked out at only one. So Wardlow is not the same kind of level superstar that Jericho's been fighting the last few times. Wardlow's a beast. Yep. Wardlow would hurl Jericho across the ring with a vertical suplex type maneuver, and he sent Jericho to the outside with a clothesline. Wardlow rammed Jericho's head into the ring post, where he pancaked Jericho with a massive powerbomb. Jim Ross, already sensing that the end was near, was fearful that Jericho may not get to fight MJF after all, and Wardlow again blasted Jericho with a second powerbomb, while MJF laughed on the ring outside, saying, "This is too good," to the ringside camera. Wardlow continued with powerbombs, one after another, punishing accumulative effects on Jericho. It was nonstop power bombs. I mean, it was he was the equivalent of Power Bomb City, bitch. Like it was just constant. And then it was, I think Jim Ross, who went on to say, if power bombing was a drinking game, we've had a lot of inebriated viewers right now. So a great spot from him again. He was on his game. Wardlow sent Jericho for a ride with the F10, and MJF, of course, instructing Wardlow to inflict as much punishment as possible. As he went to pick him up, Jericho would sweep out the legs of Wardlow, applying the walls of Jericho. MJF raked Jericho's eyes from outside the ring, where MJF tried to pass his Dynamite ring to Wardlow. But referee Aubrey Edwards would eject MJF from the ring, which I didn't think she could do that because he was part of the stipulation. Right. But all right. And as ref Aubrey Edwards was dealing with MJF, Jericho grabbed his trusty baseball bat Floyd and walloped Wardlow with it. Jericho followed up with the Judas effect and pinned Wardlow. So still showing that the Judas effect is one of the most respected finishers in AEW. A 1-2-3 on Wardlow after a bat hit was enough to put him away. Sean Spears, however, would come out ambushing Jericho, clubbing him with the rights and lefts, and Sammy Guevara jumped in to stop Spears. MJF returned to the ring and applied the Salt of the Earth armbar submission. Jake Hager, hello, welcome back, sprinted out to even out the odds for the inner circle. MJF would go on to say, Chris, next week, you're facing me. No Judas effect, no Judas music. You're going to be coming out here to dead silence. And if you hit me with the Judas effect, Chris, I automatically win. But, Chris, forget the stipulations because I'm going to make a prediction for next week. You're going to find out that you haven't just met your match, you've met your successor, MJF. Wowzers.
Yeah.
Again, this was a good match. Jericho looked like he was going to be squashed and potentially lose before he can get to the end, get to the finish line. Glad that wasn't the case.
Right.
But I personally really enjoyed this match. It made Wardlow look really good, and that the only way he could lose was by a use of a foreign object. So I enjoyed it. Dylan, what are your thoughts?
I had the same reaction. That was the best way to book Ward. That's probably the best booking they've done for Wardlow in his entire time in AEW.
He looked great.
He looked like a monster. He had to lose via a baseball bat and the finishing move while the ref was distracted. It was a really safe way to give him a loss and Jericho the win.
Right.
To continue this.
Thank God, because you know they've been some of his losses I've questioned, or some of his losses. Because he really isn't the one that usually takes the pinfall. But this was a good look for not just Jericho, but also, honestly, Wardlow.
I'd say he got way more of a good look than Jericho did in this one. And he needed it.
I agree with you. So, Dylan, that was the end of Dynamite right there. This was one of the better Dynamites we've seen in a long time. 4.5 star plus Dynamite.
It was the same.
Very, very good. But, Dylan, I'm just excited to talk about this next part because we had the debut of Rampage. And not only did we have the debut of Rampage, it was Mark Henry debuting on commentary, which was awesome, with Chris Jericho. Who else did they have on commentary?
And Excalibur and Taz.
Yeah, Taz, Excalibur, Mark Henry, and, of course, Jericho. Who, Jericho, you can just, like, if you could just not. Just
really? I like him there.
He's too much. He's too much, especially on this Rampage. This first one, it was like...
I liked him.
I love Chris Jericho. I love Chris Jericho. But he's just a little bit. Like, anytime someone was talking, he's like, shut up, idiot. And then he would start talking. And it's like, oh, come on. Let's actually call the match.
He did have a great moment with Mark Henry, if you recall it. He was like, how many belts do you have, Mark? Mark goes, I just got this one holding up my pants. I was dying. It was so funny.
You can tell he's a little green too, Mark Henry. Like his backstage interviews, he was sweating his face off. Yeah. You could tell he was definitely nervous. But I think those are my only two critiques of this episode. Like it was really good. And we not only... was it the debut episode? It started off with this.
With the main event of pay-per-view type feel to it.
Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage. No one at ringside except Don Callis, but not really. Right. He didn't really get involved until later on. I mean, come on. For the Impact World Championship on AEW. What a way to start off your first show. So as I was saying, the AEW and Impact World Champion Kenny Omega with Don Callis was up against the number one ranked for the AEW Championship, Christian Cage. Only the Impact Championship was on the line tonight, and Christian Cage would start the match off fast, applying a headlock to Kenny Omega. He followed up with a massive shoulder tackle to Omega and then gave him the middle finger. Right off the bat, we're realizing, all right, good. This is going to have the exact same vibe that Dynamite gives off. There's going to be nothing held back. Omega kicked Christian Cage in the midsection and then chopped away at him. Omega was looking for the one-winged angel early, and then Christian tried to counter with the kill switch, but Omega rolled out of the ring to collect himself. Kenny took the driver's seat and tried for his sliding baseball dropkick, but Christian Cage, of course, the veteran he is, moved out of the way. Christian jumped back into the ring and used a sliding dropkick of his own on Omega. Christian Cage climbed to the top turnbuckle, but Don Callis distracted him, giving Kenny Omega enough time to shove him from his perched position down to the arena floor. Christian Cage was was right up off the mat against Kenny Omega, and Cage connected with a snap suplex on Omega. A snap suplex that was also ridiculously fast, too. I know it's a snap suplex. It's supposed to be fast, but for, someone Christian's age, it looked really, really good. The champ answered, unfortunately, by gouging Christian's eyes. He propped Christian Cage up on the top turnbuckle and clubbed him with rights and lefts. Omega tried for a superplex, but Christian Cage dumped Kenny Omega with a sunset flip powerbomb. Christian Cage called for the kill switch, but Omega hit him with a back elbow. Omega followed up with a moonsault for the near fall. Omega would then attempt a one-winged angel, but Christian countered with a reverse DDT, where Christian ran in for a spear, but Kenny Omega popped him up with his knee. He powerbombed Christian Cage and then crushed him with a V-trigger knee, and somehow Christian kicked out. Omega ran in for the V-trigger again, but Christian ducked, and Omega collided with the turnbuckles. Omega was fired up, though, and used 2 Snapdragon suplexes on Christian Cage. Christian Cage retaliated with a frog splash, beautiful frog splash, for a near fall on Omega. But here comes the elite ring leader, Don Callis, distracting the referee while Kenny Omega hit a low blow on Christian Cage. Omega signaled for the Young Bucks, and the Bucks slid a chair into the ring. Omega was going to hit the one-winged angel on top of a chair, but Christian Cage reversed it and hit a kill switch on top of the chair. Christian Cage would go for the pinfall. 1, 2, 3, pinning Kenny freaking Omega and your new Impact World Champion, Christian freaking Cage. I mean, oh my God, what a way to start this off. The Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus run down to congratulate him, and the EVP of Impact Wrestling, Scott D'Amore, climbed into the ring to shake Christian Cage's hand. Wow. You want to talk about starting off your, pilot episode right? This was insane. Dylan, I think I've talked enough. You go ahead and lead off what you think about this match.
Let me just say, wow. And this match, let's start by this. For how good that match was, they're going to do it again.
Oh, yeah. One more time. Bring it back around.
They're going to do it again. And I would not be surprised if at some point Kenny's like, let's make this title for a title. I could see
okay.
that coming.
God, and he gets the belts back? Oh,
it's possible.
Ew.
It's possible because I say this only because TNA Impact's next pay-per-view is the 20th of August, which he will be facing Brian Myers, by the way. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be very fun.
Yep, 2 former Edgeheads.
Exactly. So that'll be a fun match. It's very possible to add to the stipulation, because this is Kenny Omega, that you see the titles come back, or Christian wins all the titles. It's very possible.
My God.
Imagine. The title's already on the line. He's already beat him once.
I think this is what they were waiting for to get the Impact Championship back on Impact.
The problem is Christian isn't really on Impact.
Give it 2 months.
Yeah.
Give it 2 months. He'll lose that title to someone worthy, hopefully. Like I don't know, anyone. I don't care. Yeah. Someone who's worthy. I mean, maybe we can get finally John Morrison. Maybe John Morrison could leave the WWE and go back to Impact where he belongs, and win that title off of Christian Cage and stop using stupid little squirty bottles every single week on the drip stick. Is that what they're calling it now? Disgusting. It's hilarious, but you got two top caliber stars using drip sticks. And wheelchairs and water buckets as your main. I hate it. And it also kills off superstars like Elias. So let's just not do that anymore. That's how I feel about it. But I don't see Christian holding these titles very long. He doesn't need it. But it is nice to see him having a title. But if he loses it in 3 weeks, I'm not going to be surprised. Yeah. So here we go. What a crazy start to this. Dylan, I am just blown away that they would start off with this match.
I was blown away as well. I really was at a loss for words. I couldn't believe it. It was awesome.
I was nearly certain that this was going to be the match that started off the night. It was Miro was going up against Fuego Del Sol, who I did not realize had so much love. He's
got a huge fan base.
Dear really God, they love him.
They really do.
But before, here, let me take this down real quick and put Christian back up on the screen. Before we get to that, Mark Henry was backstage with Christian Cage, and he said, I said I was going to take Kenny's titles, and I was going to start with the Impact World Championship. And Kenny Omega is every bit as good as they say he is, but I'm living in your head right now. And if I know I can beat you, that AEW World Championship is going to be mine as well at All Out. So he is definitely looking to become the newest belt collector. So that is going to be something to see. September 5th, man. Listen, I got a lot going on September 5th, but you bet I am going to stop what I'm doing to watch that pay-per-view because I am very excited to see what they are going to do with that. But let's get into the next match while we have the time to do so. We have Miro versus Fuego Del Sol for the TNT Championship. Fuego Del Sol would surprise Miro with a tornado DDT at the start of the match. He followed up with a second tornado DDT, and Miro was rocked, seeing stars on the arena floor. Miro was also almost counted out, which, honestly, that's what I thought they were going to do for a sec. I thought they were doing that because on the line also was a contract for Fuego Del Sol to be on AEW's Dynamite. But before the 10 count, Fuego Del Sol was waiting in the ring, and as Miro entered, he hit him with a third tornado DDT. Fuego attempted for a fourth DDT, but Miro plucked him out of the air and smashed him with a Samoan drop, or, we could just call it, the Bulgarian drop. Yeah. We could call it, who alluded to that? Was it Taz? He's like, no, it's a Bulgarian drop. No, it was Jericho. Yeah. Jericho's like, it's a Bulgarian drop, you idiot. So that's what I'm calling it from now on. Miro would, however, go on to knock off Fuego's head with a massive kick and then immediately applying the game over submission. And that was, I don't think he even had it all the way in, and Fuego Del Sol was tapping out. So, listen, he got smoked, but this crowd is so on his side. And Sammy Guevara, who is Fuego's real life best friend, would come out holding a contract saying, Fuego, these people love you, and a lot of the guys back there love you too. Since you're my best friend, Tony Khan thought that it was only appropriate that I come out here and say that Fuego Del Sol is All Elite. So Fuego is coming to All Elite Wrestling. Not that he hasn't been here already, but he is officially All Elite. He looked good. Yeah. And Miro sold the shit out of those tornado DDTs. So who knows? Maybe if he hit that fourth one, we might have had a new TNT champion. But Miro, the veteran that he is, had it well scouted and won that championship. Good to see the belt staying on Miro. I think he's going to start doing something with that very soon, having more matches. But he already does have 5, now 6 title defenses. Yeah. So he is defending it. People are saying he's like a paper champion. I disagree. He's doing very well. Yeah. And we can't expect too much out of him when there's this. I mean, look at the array of superstars we've already talked about. Like there are a lot of people on these on the AEW roster, and some are just top dogs like Britt Baker, who demands that time slot that she is going to get for the main event of Rampage. Of course, she absolutely killed it on Dynamite with that promo, and people were very, very exciting. When her music hit, dear Lord, the reaction from that crowd for Britt Baker.
Huge pop.
Oh, they absolutely popped it. And Excalibur went on to say it was a true hero's welcome for Britt from Britsburg. Britt Baker immediately looked for the lockjaw right away, but of course, we can't end it that quick. Red Velvet escaped. She countered with a wrist lock. They got to their feet and shoved at one another back and forth like, a 5th grade fight about a juice box. It was one of those little shoulder-to-shoulder shoving matches. But Red Velvet would get another wrist lock in. Remember, Britt Baker has a broken wrist, so important to note that as we move forward here. So she would get that wrist lock, going to stomp on Britt Baker's injured arm, but hesitated, which bizarre. Don't know why she was doing that. I mean, I know you're technically a face, but come on. Red Velvet would dodge Baker's charge from the corner, and Baker's injured arm smacked into the turnbuckle. Red Velvet dropped the champion with a leg lariat and followed up with a moonsault press for a near fall. Excalibur going on to note that he thinks that Red Velvet is going to be the one to dethrone Britt Baker in her own hometown. Baker went for a clothesline, but Red Velvet blocked it, forcing more pressure on Baker's injured arm. Chris Statlander was shown scouting the match in the front row, so that's exciting. Definitely setting up who's going to be the next person in a title match. And Baker was reaching for the lockjaw, but Red Velvet rolled her back for a 2 count. Red Velvet ripped off Baker's glove and cranked back on her hand. Rebel jumped up on the apron and distracted Red Velvet, where referee Paul Turner ejected Rebel. Horrible. Yeah. And Red Velvet nailed Britt Baker with a beautiful moonsault. Britt rallied back, however, with a curb stomp, which, by the way, I don't know if you heard it, but when she hit that curb stomp, Chris Jericho goes, "Now that's how you do a real curb stomp." It's like,
I did hear him say that, and I did grimace a little bit, but it was okay.
Oh my God, he's like, let me just punch through the fourth door or the fourth wall real quick and tell Seth Rollins what I really think of him, because wow, that couldn't have been more passive aggressive towards WWE.
Really did shoot that one, and that's why Jericho is going to be on commentary now and then, because he gives no fucks.
What you want to bet? He went backstage. Tony was like, "Really?
Yeah. Like, what are you gonna do about it?"
What are you gonna do? Not have me on Dynamite next week? I doubt it.
I doubt it.
So Red Velvet would try for the lockjaw on Britt Baker. Disrespectful. But of course, Baker countered it, and Britt Baker switched it up and trapped Red Velvet for the lockjaw, forcing Red Velvet to tap out, retaining her championship. After the match, Britt Baker continued her assault on Red Velvet, and Chris Statlander jumped the guardrail and came to Red Velvet's aid. Out of nowhere, however, a woman dressed all in black attire began to hit Statlander and then stomped on her. It was Jamie Hayter coming back after 2 years. She was one of the original, if you remember, one of the originals of the women's division in AEW. But she's back after almost 2 years being gone. Very exciting to see someone of her caliber back in the women's division. I mean, I think we all knew Britt Baker was going to win this match, especially with it being the main event. Could you imagine? Can you imagine she didn't win this match in Pittsburgh? I mean, that would have been.
A lot of people would have been crazy, especially there.
That would have been bonkers. But man, holy cow, Britt Baker living up to the hype. Dylan, she's your favorite, so go ahead, give me your take on this match.
Well, let me just say, main event was well deserved. That promo we talked about earlier killed it. This match lived up to the expectations. You know, she elevated Red Velvet. She obviously was up there as well because she's just that damn good.
Yeah, of course.
And for a first-time show, you get 1 hour. They put on 3 title matches. It was a great show. This was the way to do it. AEW's on fire. I mean, this is a way to improve your women's division. You got it right here.
They're doing it. And I mean,
it's a slow build, but they're doing it.
Who knows? We might get some flair added to the women's division at some point. But, you know, that's just speculation.
This guy.
What? I didn't say anyone's name. It's an adjective to describe something exciting. I don't know what Dylan, I don't know what you're alluding to. I don't know what you're trying to say. Anyways, on AEW's Dynamite next week, we have Shawn Spears versus Sammy Guevara. And Sammy Guevara apparently has a major announcement. Do we want to speculate on what that is?
Honestly, I have no idea. No idea.
You're scaring me with this stuff. Like, what could it possibly be? Is he taking time away? Is there someone joining the inner circle?
I don't know.
I don't know. But again, honestly, if Shawn Spears wins this match, I'm gonna be so mad. He better not. This better be a Sammy Guevara win.
Hey, I'm happy either way. I do love Shawn Spears. I think he's better than he gets a rep for. So
look at him. He's terrifying.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. He's great.
And then for the first time in, God, what did they say, 17 years? Yeah. Darby Allin and Sting, Sting will be in action on TNT, which hasn't happened in forever. Darby Allin and Sting in a tornado tag match versus 2.0. I mean, after what they did to 2.0 when they were injured last week, 2.0 better be very careful because these two are nothing to be messed with. And we saw what they did to Team Taz, so you better be careful. We also have the 5th chapter of the Jericho Trials. He's going up against MJF. and you can't have your entrance music, and you can't use the Judas effect. Does Jericho win this match?
I don't know, man. I think this is meant for MJF to win.
I do too, and I guess I'll give my take because I've been given crazy takes this whole episode. MJF wins this match. Remember where this is taking place. This one's in Houston, so we're not in Chicago just yet. So they're gonna save their big ammo for the Chicago show. Yeah. But I have a feeling that he'll win. He'll beat Jericho, and he'll say something along the lines of, "I'm the best in the world, and you know it." And that will be the end of the show. That's where the show cuts. Nothing happens. That's it. Just and then they could end it with like a, and then they just be gone. And then on the homecoming episode of Rampage,
listen,
CM Punk.
My hope, I hope for CM Punk's debut, it's not a match. I just want to see him come out.
Right.
They can save that anticipation of a match whenever. I think
it needs to be 2 seconds. And it needs to be MJF who he comes out and attacks. And it needs to be along the lines of, "I'm the best in the world, and you know it." Bang! Go to sleep. Hits him with the go to sleep. And that's it. Blackout. That's it. Goodbye. See you next week.
That'd be because they're doing a Chicago show in Rampage, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
So this Wednesday is in Houston, and then I believe Rampage is in Chicago on Friday.
So I think to comment on what you're doing, have him come out all black, and you just attacks him, right? Because he's on a promo, whatever. He just attacks him. He never shows his face. He hits that go to sleep, and you cut the show, right?
Right.
You can have MJF not have a match at All Out, and then cut his promo being like, "Whoever did it," one of those.
Come on down.
Right. And then that's where he makes his debut, whether they've wrestled or not.
And he has to enter the Cult of Personality, right?
Yeah, he does. He has to.
There'd be no way they don't use Cult of Personality.
I just all the speculation. No matter what happens, the world's gonna go crazy.
Right.
It doesn't matter. And
this makes the most sense.
It makes the most sense because Jericho's not facing MJF at All Out, which, in my opinion, was
MJF needs an opponent.
So that was what I was saying. This is the only way it makes sense for that match to be happening on Wednesday. So fingers crossed. That's all I can say. Fingers crossed. Plus, Daniel Bryan's in the mix too.
Who knows where he's gonna be?
Where's his debut gonna be eventually too? Because he's gonna be a part of this.
I have no idea. He could face so many people. I mean, maybe he'll go straight after Miro.
I'd like to see him in a different role, but
to start off, give him the TNT Championship, and that's where he starts.
Yeah, I guess that'd be fine by me too, because then he can face all these guys that I'm thinking of.
The up and comings, yeah.
He could put people over. Miro's been doing a great job of it though too. I've been saying he's been really good.
But that's not all we have next week. We have this as well: the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express. I think we both were on the same page that Jurassic Express might win this match.
This is one where it might be meant for the Young Bucks.
Please.
You're begging.
Put the belts on my boy, Jungle Boy. He needs a belt. He needs it. He's earned it.
This could be it, man. This
might be it. Dylan, we've had so much in this episode. 10 matches plus, if not more. A wild week. We're going to talk, me, you, Noah, Kyle, about potentially having a second episode every week now. One to cover Rampage, one to cover Dynamite, because this is, even though we got it in a little over an hour, it is definitely a lot of content to cover. So to have two shows would probably be more cohesive and easier to function for all of us.
Right.
So I think that's something we can talk about moving forward, is doing two shows. Or even if we don't do two reaction shows or post-reaction shows, maybe Friday nights we do live reactions to the show while it's on air. So there's a lot of things going on. If you guys who listen to the podcast or watch us live, just shoot us a message. You can find us on Facebook. You can come join us in the Twitch chat. Anywhere you want, just let us know. what you prefer, and we would love to hear your input on that. But just a reminder again, we are not a market substitute, guys, so make sure you're watching all of the AEW's content live, and then come join us for our reaction and all our pictures and our opinions on all of this content. But if you guys are a fan of podcasts, I mean, you must be because you're listening to us right now. CMG is the place for you to look for podcasts. We have, I think there's like 40 plus shows now on CMG. They are growing for a business that only started a few years ago. So anything you guys are looking for, sports, true crime, they have one about government and politics. There's all sorts of stuff you can find there. Just find one that you like. Oh, I found my window. Here we go. Just find one you like, and you can just find something that you enjoy on the CMG network. And if, God forbid, you don't find one you like, start one for yourself for as little as $15 a month. CMG can get you started on your very own content. It is a great company to work with. Dylan and myself and Noah have been with them for a little over a year now. So it has been a lot of fun working with them. Joe is a great guy who can get you up and running on your dream to be a podcaster. But for now, for the CWE podcast, it is Tyler and Dylan signing off. We will see you all in the next one. Stay crossing.
You're listening to the Cross'em Wrestling Entertainment Podcast.